So something that Sam had been working on, I'm not sure where it ever ended, was there's a lot of information that we've got about the weather and around the world that's sitting in some of these data banks down in Monterey that would be interesting to bring together. And these, you know, the aquarium, the Monterey Bay Research Institute, the NOAA, National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, has a lot of different activities around the bay. So they have found, and that brochure helped convince them that you keep bringing institutions here, you build some critical mass. And then USGS and the Fish and Game facilities. Am I running out of time yet? Is this too long? Are you guys bored? Okay, I'll keep talking. So that was sort of about the intellectual dots for the network around the bay, the intellectual capacity. The next one was sort of get the job creation sites. This one I'll go faster through, but for UC, I acquired 1,100 acres for UC. About half of that, 600 acres actually, is habitat, run now by the Natural Reserve System for UC. There are about 500 acres left that would actually build facilities on. And we had, by the time I left UC, we had 55 acres fully stubbed, roadways in, and one 25,000 square foot facility on site, ready to go to market. Let's see, we looked at Long Marine Lab, and we were looking at the regional activities around the bay where we could go. This is, if you want to know about Fort Ord history, this will be the map of Fort Ord, and all I'll tell you for those of you who may not know, the green is habitat at Fort Ord. So when you look at all the 28,000 acres of Fort Ord, that's this big, exciting thing. When a lot of it was green, and it was green because it was really important habitat, or it was green because it was habitat and unexploded ordnance. And so that's all off the ocean is out here. Highway 1 goes between the dark green and the colors. The State Parks has this, but UC's land is up here, and CSU's land is here. And we actually co-located at one corner. We still do, I guess. This is a little bit about 4.9 million square feet was part of the development plan. There were master plans done. A lot of work was done on this. And they currently now actually have a developer on site working on a new facility, or a couple of acres. This was the 25,000 square foot. Have you been to this building yet, in the MS Center? That was federally funded for the most part. The regions put some money into it. In fact, we had about $18 million of federal money that came to our development of the UC lands at Fort Ord. And this was a partnership with the city of Marina and UC. We brought our money together in 2 different grants. The intent was to create a small business incubator, so the Marine Technology Cluster is down there, run by the city of Marina and in a UC facility, and it was the attempt to try to get the city and the university to work together. There were days it was hard, but overall it's working and it's still there. In fact, I just noticed the date. We opened it a couple of days after 9/11, so it was a very interesting opening. We were looking at the time for a mix of tenants. We didn't want to be information technology center or a biotech center, but we continue to believe, and I now, as I'm working statewide, believe is that intersection, or again, convergence of different disciplines is where the potential for innovation and new ideas are coming. So I still believe that if you create around the region a variety of different nodes of activity rather than just one kind of activity. This is a list just of the current tenants down at MBES. There's a variety of things going on. There are 2 buildings, an old building and a new building. And the Marina Business Incubator has several tenants. There are many tenants in it. The third part of that strategy, remember, so we had intellectual capacity, more dots on the map. We had to figure out where you're going to build some activity. And the last part of that was sort of develop the, what would I call it, sort of the ecosystem for entrepreneurs and for the industry to thrive. So we did the incubator. We actually launched an entrepreneur training program in the incubator with the city of Marina with some federal and state money. We had something called the Monterey Bay training consortium, I forget what the R was. But we went around to all the industry in the region and figured out what kind of trainings they would need, and we build classes around that. Rather than wait for a company to have enough people, we started to go around and build these classes so we could start to increase the expertise in the region. We had a venture capital conference many years ago in the region, bringing other companies, and we would work on forming these mentor and angel and VC networks. So this is sort of the wrap down, but I really hope we can have a conversation because I'm excited you're here and want to figure out how to help take it to the next level. challenges that we had at the time, I think we still have. The regional identity and perceptions about our region. If I still, in my brain, try to draw the crescent, it's one place to me. I've driven around it so many times, I think it's got a lot of, it's one place. But if you read the Santa Cruz Sentinel, it's Santa Cruz. And if you read the Monterey Herald, it's Monterey Herald. And if you read the Californian, it's a little bit of those, but mostly in the valley. So we don't even have a newspaper that covers the region. I'd say our news shows don't either. So the one coming out of Monterey does a lot of Monterey stories, but not a lot of Santa Cruz. I mean, it just doesn't, none of those vehicles sort of create that cut of region. It does it good by county or city, but not by this full region. The jurisdictions are, I mean, just the way, and this is nobody's fault, this is just how our governments were run. Our boundaries are real boundaries. We can spend money often only within our boundaries. Our money comes for particular purposes within the boundary. So how do we create things that look beyond our boundaries? And that takes, I think, some real leadership and some people with vision, and who are willing to sort of buck the trend and think outside those jurisdictional boxes. Clearly, the competing priorities and budget cuts. I would say one of the things we did in our work with Marina, we designed our Invest property at Fort Ord, a grand avenue that would come right between Marina's property and our property, and we abutted at the Marina Airport. And we had this vision of sort of like going into Stanford or something, a big, nice boulevard. Well, the first thing Marina wanted to do on the other side of the line was a helicopter company that wanted to shut us down, Invest, because they needed to do overflights. And we learned in that process that our timeline was different than Marina's timeline. They needed to fill the buildings and get some revenue. And they, you know, we were talking 10, 20, 30 years. I'm on the board of the Association for University Research Parks, which is an international organization. It takes at least 10 years to get a research park or an innovation community, as they now call it, into the black. And what we were trying to do added the interesting challenge of a base conversion. And Fort Ord has been the most complex and I think the slowest base conversion in the whole country, though at one time we had it named the national model. We had the Pentagon come out and cut ribbons, we were the national model. Now they sort of don't want to talk about it, but because it's taken a long time, it's very complex. Timelines, like I said, it takes 10 years or longer. I didn't believe that when I started. If I didn't believe it, I might not have tried to do it. But it takes a long time for us to change our communities and move in directions that are different. Workforce housing was an issue back then. It's, you know, in fact, when we started Fort Ord, it was the worst economic slump the state had ever seen, 1991. It was a crisis. We've never seen anything so bad. So we've gone back now through two of those. We went in 2000 when the market, or 2001 when the market crashed, and now we're in another one. So, you know, you start to look at these and you start to figure out, well, how do you just ride this along? Transportation, if you drive back and forth around the bay, you pick the time of day you go, because it's any time except from like the 10:15 and 11:45, it's pretty stopped, at least at this end of the day. Limited water allocation, which is a bigger issue today than it was then, and identified champions. I think you really need people to stand up, or institutions to stand up. And in the research park world, where you get success is when you have the government and the universities together making a commitment to do the work. Here are where I think the opportunities still. I still think the talent around this bay is unsurpassed. You've got great talent in places like Woods, Poland, Scripps, and marine research, but again, we're broader than that. We are really much broader. We can do international work here with the Monterey Institute for International Studies and Translation. We've hosted many international delegations down the Monterey side of the bay using that expertise. There was, and I'm not quite sure the current status of this, but a high-speed initiative, internet initiative. What's interesting is when between South Bay, Monterey side, and Santa Cruz side, you cross what's called a LATA. Does anybody know what a LATA is? You cross one of these communication lines where you can't do that because it's a different ladder or something. And we still don't have a high-speed ring around this bay. We've got some microwave stuff across the bay between UCSC and what's going on at Fort Ord. And that was, if you know, Pat Banty was about a particular project, and he needed his data, so we could set that up.